Adam, my taxes are done. The season's over. I can just go on vacation and not have to see you again for another year.
Well, yeah, because you're never going to have to file your taxes again unless it's another year away.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I forgot about that.
They're never going away. So here at Adam Up Accounting, we're glad to help you during tax time. But if you're also a larger seller, if you need to run payroll, if you really want some help running those bookkeeping reports, because I know how good you are at that, we're happy to help you. We have really good affordable monthly plans on these higher seller, you're running it like a business, you've got some good amount of income. We'd be happy to take care of you so that your accounting needs are taken care of.
Well, I don't want to talk to you, though. I don't want to call up and just get some office off in, New Brunswick or somewhere.
Hey, we're here. You can message us on our website, shoot us a message on social media. We'd be glad to help you out, kind of tell you what options we have so that you can be more organized and teach you and help you make more money and pay less to Uncle Sam.
What's your website and where do I find you on social media then, my friend?
Everything's Adam Up Accounting. You can look us up there on our website. You can follow us, get some Wednesday wisdom. We try to give you some tips. You can also link through the podcast, Deathpiles and Taxes. Get those taxes taken care of so you have more time to make money elsewhere.
We sell your items online. Go ahead, declutter your life. Have a yard sale or let eBay do the work. From the thrift store shopping to that wallet popping. There are two things in life that are certain. Deathpiles and Texas. With Derek Everitt and Adam Beesley.
All right, we're back at it, D-Roy. This is Deathpiles and Taxes, our episode. We got a special guest, and D-Roy is going to run it down. Apparently, this guy is large and in charge in a lot of circles, and I'm not in that circle.
This is a good get, Adam. We're lucky to have him. We have Mr. Zahn Mourning in here with us today. He's a 2-podcast man, at least that I know of. You have more than 2 podcasts, Zahn?
Just the 2 podcasts and then the YouTube channel, which is the main focus, actually.
So he has Wrestling with Cards, Worlds Collide, and then he has a YouTube channel, which is where I first found his stuff, where he just goes over wrestling with cards and shows you down sets, what you're looking for. He's been great for me finding cards that I've been wanting to get. Also, from what I understand, you're a coffee guzzler and
absolutely
a member of the Bills Mafia. So
absolutely for life since the all those losses in the playoffs and Super Bowls, and I've just been, and I'm not even anywhere near New York, but here I am. That actually started from all my friends being Cowboys fans at the time, and I'm like, I can't be with these guys. I got to go the other way. So that's where it started.
Derek is quite that way. If we all go one way, he'll go the other way, just to spite us. So
now, let me break it down for you. We got Adam here. Are you a big college football guy?
I am not, just pro.
Okay, well. Who's the Bills' biggest rival?
It's got to be the Patriots currently.
So Patriots. Could you ever see yourself cheering for the Patriots and for the Bills?
From a fan perspective, no. From a betting or fantasy perspective, yes.
So if Tom Brady were the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills and had won all of these titles, but then left out of kind of a bad skife, and he went to the Patriots, would you still root for Tom Brady?
From a fan perspective, no.
Exactly.
Wow,
Thank you.
You are. I guess if it went the other way and he was with the Patriots forever, won all of those Super Bowls, but then came to the Bills, you'd probably root for him then because I guess it's your favorite.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's the quarterback at that point. And I actually, I know this is probably off topic, but I actually like Tom Brady now because he transition. Obviously, he's out of the AFC East, so the Bills don't have to worry about him really anymore from that perspective. But also, he really reminded me when he went to the Buccaneers, nobody wanted him. He's too old, all that stuff. And all of a sudden, he wins a Super Bowl. I'm like, this has a really good correlation with when Hogan went heel and turned into Hollywood Hogan. And all of a sudden, everybody loved the guy, and he reinvigorated his career. That's kind of how I view Brady right now.
Well, Adam's the ultimate flip-flop fan. We got rivalry colleges, and he cheers for both of them somehow. and his favorite wrestler is Brutus the Barber Beefcake, so that tells you anything you need to know about him.
Wow. All right.
So those of you who are new to the show, thanks for bringing on Listen with us.
we talk a lot about reselling online because there's always things that can be bought and sold. Derek and Zahn, they're obviously kind of down that wrestling format, but we all sell different things, and they'll share a couple stories with us. Going to give you a hot tip. Zach Moss out of University of Utah. He is a buy. He was a buy about a year ago when I was buying him. So that's my guy, Utah Zone.
Yeah, I've kind of been surprised. Like, I don't know what he's doing on the team, really. Like, they keep using Singletary and Zach Moss, and they keep bouncing back and forth. And I'm like, where are they going to go? But it looks like Moss is kind of running away with the share of everything there.
He's the guy that keeps scoring the touchdowns.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah, we're fans of him over here. So
yep.
The Bills games get on it that way. But let's just break it down for those that don't know you, which is probably a lot of our audience. Let's talk about what intrigued me and why I wanted to get you on the show is how you got into eBay and how you go about buying and how you built your collection. So can you just kind of break down that story for everyone, and we'll interject and ask you some questions as we go along?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Anytime you want to interject, just speak up and we can go into more detail. Basically, I think I started it. It's 2006, I think, is my eBay start date. Now, I actually bought on eBay. I think it was 2002 or 2003 is when I made my first purchase. Somehow I remember it actually. It was a Dead Kennedys album that I really wanted, and I had to order it from like New Zealand because nobody here had it. And so that was my first experience with buying. From the selling perspective, it was like 2006, and I opened an account because I had moved out of my house. I was in college. I actually purchased my first home at that same time. And I was like, okay, my mom says I got to clear out the attic. I got to get all this stuff that I've had. And what am I going to do with it? Some of it I kept, some of it I still have, some of it I got rid of immediately. And I was like, how do I get rid of this stuff? Like, garage sale seems pointless. What am I going to do? All of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, there's this thing called eBay that people buy, quote, junk from. And I was like, I'm going to try to make some money and see what happens. And it just kind of gone from there. I mean, every year it's just getting more and more into it. And then, I kind of pick and choose the avenues. I find that some things are not worth my time that people say is worth your time. Like, it ends up not being worth my time. Some of it people are saying is a waste of time and actually ends up being very valuable to me personally. So I don't know where you guys want to take it from there.
So what was your first big sell? What was the one thing? Because, you put up stuff and some things go and some don't. What was the first item that went that you thought, okay, this is something worth running with or, investing in?
You guys remember the cartoon and action figures Mask? They were like little guys that had like transforming cars from the 80s.
I honestly don't remember. I know most of those, but not that one.
Yeah, it was, they were like 1-inch figures. They had a helmet that would transform them kind of. And they would have like a van that turned into like a flying jet or like a semi truck that turned into this like battlefield type thing. Really cool stuff. I still actually like the show, and I think the toys are cool. I just don't really feel like owning them anymore. But anyway, I got it was like their big play set, and it was this big mountain. It was a gas station, and the gas station turned into a battlefield, and like these guns pop out of the top of the hill. It was a really cool thing. I bought it at a garage sale when I was a kid for like $5 or $10. And at the time I was like, well, that's a lot of money because I don't have a job when I'm, 10 years old. But then it's set in the attic, and it's worth a lot more than that now. But I think I ended up selling it, taking out the shipping charges and taxes, all that stuff. I think I ended up selling it for $150 at the time. And that's, again, 2006, 2007. So I was like, oh my gosh, I just made a huge sale off this. What else can I do? And that's kind of where it got kicked off.
Then the next question is, how do I ship this, right?
Yeah. And I just, I didn't, it's kind of what I do now. I worried about it later. I was like, all right, well, I sold this. Let's figure it out. Instead of, I think a lot of people don't get started selling because they have too many questions beforehand instead of just jumping in. Because for me, that was the best learning process of what works, what doesn't, what kind of corners can you cut as far as expenses, what goes into it as far as what you list the item at. It was just jumping into it. And I think like I said, I ended up, I don't remember what the selling amount was, but I remember it was like $150 to $175 profit after shipping it, which was like, I don't know, $50 or $60 to put that thing in a giant box, which most people don't want to put in the sweat equity. They don't want to take the time to, I don't have time to ship this. I don't have time to go to the post office. And I do. Like, I don't care. It's $1. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's really not, and to share kind of with your listeners, I mean that's kind of how I got started. Derek's done this for equally as amount as long. He told me a couple years ago, and I'd sold books on half.com back when I was in college and all these things, just here and there. But Derek's like, hey, you should get into this. And my son and he found an old Ronald McDonald's play mat that you'd run your cars over on stuff, and found it in the thrift store. And he said, let's buy it. And we bought it for $8. Never done anything, never really shipped anything, put it on auction. Some guy in Japan bought it for $350. And I'm like, holy crap. I didn't know how to ship it. And I called Derek. I'm like, what do I do? And we did it, the world shipping program, global shipping thing. And we made a lot of money. So it's the same thing. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. There's no excuse, like, sell it and figure it out. I'm in the same mantra. So.
So when you got into cards, I've heard the story before. You basically went to the local card store and you started just buying the cheap cards, and you haven't invested any of your money into cards. Is that right?
Yeah. Other than that initial $15 for that big box. And when you say buying the cheap cards, it wasn't just buying cheap cards. It was buying them in bulk and buying them like, I want to get into these cards that most people are considered junk from the junk wax era. Those cards that everybody thought were going to put their kids through school. Though they truly are junk, but the fact is there are still people that are driven by nostalgia or that couldn't afford those cards when they were growing up. So now that they can buy them for $1, like there's still a demand for those. Sometimes those cards take a while to sell, but it's all a math game. So I was like, okay, I'm into these cards. I'm into 5,000 cards for, a fraction of a penny a piece. If I can sell them for $1, even though you take fees and shipping and all that nonsense out of it, I'm ending up with 40 to 50 cents a card, times that by 5,000. That's no chump change.
Yeah, that adds up pretty quick. And then you were able to those investments, because the thing that we hear a lot is like, oh, there's nothing to buy around here, or I don't know how to get started, or now it's like, well, cards are too expensive. If I go to a local card store, they want too much. There's no profit. So I thought just eliminates all those excuses of, dude, you're sitting there, you're making 40, 50 cents a card, but yeah, you're doing the multiples of 5,000. Then you can take that profit and invest it into, whether it's something graded or some new product or sealed wax or whatever. You've been able to do that and do it pretty successfully, from what I understand.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff, it ends up being like, just coloring up to bigger and better stuff that I actually want to keep. But, the $1 Million Man has said it best. Anybody who watches wrestling, everybody's got a price. And if somebody was to offer me some ridiculous amount of money that's like life-changing for stuff I don't want to get rid of, like, sure, I'll take it. If that's going to buy me a house, if that's going to, buy me a third house that I can then rent out and then make more money monthly off of that than I could the card itself, then yeah, sure, why not?
So is that the end goal, or what's your goal with selling online? Is it just kind of something to do? Is it, some passive income, or do you want it to become something that is that it can, retire you basically?
It started as, getting rid of junk, like I said, which then turned into passive income and picking up stuff here and there at the thrift store. That being said, now, especially with the cards, I found the cards are very easy for me to get in at such a low cost that if they end up not selling for something, it ends up not being that big of a deal. If it's those, those cheap cards that I'm into for like a penny or whatever. Obviously, it's a different story if you're talking about selling some of the higher end stuff. That I think that's kind of a trap people get into with cards, specifically sports cards, but all cards in general. Like, people think there's like, if you're going to make money, whether it's passive income or a full-time living from it, you can only do it with these, $5,000 cards and these $1,000, $10,000. But, here I am proving that you can do it on these 99-cent cards if you want to put in the work. And the other thing is those high-end cards, like they could go to zero and you're out thousands. If my, penny cards go to zero, so what? Like, most of the stuff I buy in collections too. So I will buy, a collection for, $400 or $500, and I'll take the big stuff out of that. I can usually make my money back within a week on that stuff. And then here I am left with all of these, anywhere from, $1 card to $5 cards. And I just start piecing that out over time, building up inventory. And I found that the cards are really where I like to live in because of how easy the shipping is, because I just use the plain white envelope, and there's a whole method to that. But it's very inexpensive to ship. It's inexpensive to store. It doesn't take up a lot of room, even though I have thousands of card available for inventory. It doesn't take up as much room as, say, if you're running sneakers, or if you're doing action figures, or any kind of, thing like that takes up a lot of space. But I've just kind of found out that, you know, people call collecting cards the hobby, and reselling, whether it's cards or whether it's, you know, vintage t-shirts I find at a thrift store or whatever, it's become a hobby within a hobby. So with that, you know, I'm just trying to get all kinds of stuff doing. I'm the kind of person that likes to have like 15 plates spinning. So when 5 of them drop, you know, 10 of them are still going to supply you some money.
Only 15, huh?
Well, we can go up if you want.
That's how parlayed into it with Derek is I'm an accountant. So I've done accounting for a lot of years, and, you know, I've always done Derek's taxes, and it's the best part of accounting. People can say, oh yeah, I sold $50,000. I'm like, dude, it cost you $20,000. Like, you have a bad habit.
Right.
Well, Derek comes in and I'm like, man, that's like $3 million, Derek.
Yeah, 3 million. Yeah.
When are we going to buy that big cabin at Table Rock Lake down there with Zahn? It's kind of like, that's what the kind of money I'm looking for. But no, that's kind of the cool thing is, like I said, accounting. Like, the nice part is you can manipulate numbers to pay less in taxes, but you can't lie about numbers. Numbers matter. Like, I can see what people really do. And when Derek was doing it, I'm like, man, I can do this. And we got into originally doing kind of t-shirt, you know, all kinds of different things from thrift stores, older gaming units, but then it morphed into cards. And now I'm like, are you serious? Like, I sold like 8 cards for $2,400. And I'm like, this is nuts. Like, and it's fun. And just like, you know, like, it's fun. I've got my college athletes. I've got professional, like, I like it. And it's so that I totally understand what you're coming from. Like, it's fun.
Right. And we're in this interesting space where, like, a lot of people get a bad rap for having too much of a transactional mindset when it comes to cards, because, and I agree, like, I think too many people, they're going out and buying the, you know, latest hot prospect or the rookie, and, you know, oh, is this going to 20x overnight? And then I can flip it to go, like, I understand the flip game from the perspective of, hey, do you need to feed your family and put food on the table? Then okay, whatever. But, or if you want to level up to, you know, the 86 Fleer Jordan or that Tom Brady rookie, whatever it is you're going after, you know, that sports car you've always wanted, whatever it is your end goal is for flipping, like, I get that. But I also think that it's a really dangerous game to play, because if you get stuff that you just really don't care about, whether that's, you know, that prospect, somebody from a team you don't really care, your rival team, whatever, if you're getting that and you don't have a passion for, you know, the collectible within the realm of that collectibles world, or if it's not something that you are okay keeping and going to zero, like, I think it's kind of dangerous. Like, sure, I've made some really good flips from, like, modern sports cards, be it sealed wax or something I just happen to hit on, but I've actually done better by buying stuff I absolutely love. Like, the all-in wrestling card set. Like, you could, I was like, I think AEW is going to be a thing. I don't know how big, but I think it's going to be a thing. So when these came out from the first all-in show, I was like, okay, I'll buy, I think I bought 10 sets. And at the time, you could get them on high spots. The more you ordered, the more of a discount you got. I think I got them between $5 and $10 a piece shipped. And right now, I mean, they're no less than $350. So.
Oh yeah, easy. I thought I did well the other day. I got a pack for $250. I 3 packs when they came out. It's kind of the same mindset as you. I just didn't go as all in, pardon the pun there, as I should have. But I went through and got a lot of those graded, and I mean, and I probably should have held on to them, but I kind of see the numbers, and I don't know, but I've sold the MJF rookie, a couple of those for like $300-$400, the 9s, and then a few of the other cards for a couple $100, and it's all profit at that point.
Anything's profit. Like, I talk about this a lot with other people, specifically, like, not a little bit in the reselling stuff, but mainly cards. Like, people are like, oh, I sold this for, you know, $50 back then, and I was only into it for $1. And I'm like, whoa, stop right there. Like, you can't look back. Like, you 50 times your money, whether that's $1 or whether it's $5 million. Like, of course you want that huge gain, but profit's profit. And over time, if you're taking that and not spending it on yourself and just rolling that into even more stuff to sell, like, over time, it's going to even itself out.
So I was lucky. I got in the PSA grading right before the big hit. So a lot of those cards I got them graded for under $20 a card.
Nice.
More of the 7 to 9 because I did the bulk and all that. But speaking of AEW, this has been a hot tip I've been saying on the show to people that know nothing about wrestling. I've told Adam, I went down to our local card store and I said, get me as many of these as you can get. And we're lucky that we have a guy that is a cool guy and will pretty much barely make a profit. So I got about 3 cases coming in of that. I'm guaranteed to get some of these boxes. How many of those have you pre-ordered, or are you going in on the Upper Deck AEW cards?
Well, I guess I'll backtrack a little bit. Have you been buying any of the EPAC stuff, or have you seen that?
I've seen it, but I haven't bought it. Just I didn't want to deal with the paying and having it printed off, and I probably should have with that CM Punk, but I didn't do it.
All of them. They're all selling for close to double what they were priced at, like immediately. And those are the pre-orders. Those aren't even the actual card yet. So there clearly is a demand for AEW cards. I am splitting a case with Tony Vella from the Worlds Collide podcast and WrestlingTradingCards.com, which is like the best resource for wrestling cards. Me and him are splitting a case. We didn't want to go too crazy with it, but I definitely wanted some. As far as like sealed wax, I generally buy sealed wax as a long-term hold, but then all of a sudden, if something comes up and I need some money to pay for something else, usually I always win on sealed wax. So into a half a case for those, and I will just be sitting on them.
That was kind of my idea. I kind of wanted a box for myself just to open and see what I got. But I think long-term, just sitting on it's the way to do that. So
yeah. And if you want to rip a box, I mean, you're doing it the right way, like rip a box and have fun with it and share it with everybody and let everybody know the kind of product that's in it, or if you like it or whatever. But at the end of the day, like that's all going to be covered from all the sealed wax you've got sitting on. So
that's been the bolo or the hot tip I've been giving a lot of people that the wrestling cards. I'm like, this one, I mean, it's selling out the second it goes up on these sites, and then the prices just went up to the moon on the pre-orders.
As long as I've always been into wrestling cards. I still have the very first wrestling card I ever owned, which is an 87 Topps Hogan. I got it when I was like 4 years old, and I still have it somehow out of all the collectibles and stuff that I've gotten rid of and resold. Still have that one. So I've been into wrestling cards since, the 80s, early 90s. But this, out of every wrestling card release ever, which, I mean, you guys probably know as well as I do, like wrestling cards aren't promoted. They're like the bottom of the rung as far as like trading cards go usually. But the excitement and anticipation and even promotion on the actual AEW shows, I've never seen anything like this in any wrestling card product.
Yeah, I'd agree. We have a friend that's more into like the 82 All-Stars. He's got the whole set and kind of doing that thing. And that's I've been texting with him as well. Like, hey, Phil, our local card shop guy can get, he's basically getting as many as he can. Are you in for it? And he's in on it. I'm trying to get Adam to get in on it. So
he's got a couple things. I mean, same thing. You have to be committed. You have to be interested in it. I bought quite a few of the Rock rookie cards, or the I don't know, which one did I buy?
Yeah, the Bend'em.
I got the Bend'em,
Yep.
And I've got that off of PSA right now. Multi-year stuff. I was kind of big into the Gary V stuff. Like, that's the reason we have a podcast. Like,
same.
People said, hey, quit talking about it, record it. And we started doing it. Now we have tens of thousands of, 20, 30,000 all over the country. But he, talked about vintage soccer. And to me, that, I don't know, I don't like soccer, but I like money. And to me, soccer every 4 years for World Cup is like, that audience is so much bigger than, my Zach Moss card or different things. So really heavy into a bunch of soccer cards. They're still at PSA, but I bought some really cool early Pele's. We got a hot take coming in right now.
Yeah, we're right across the street from the fire department. And apparently with rain coming down, there's still somebody playing with matches and so.
No, so I got really into a lot of these early Pele rookie cards.
Oh yeah.
And all I did is I didn't know anything about it. I just went to Google. I says top 25 World Cup players ever. And I looked at it and I saw the list. Pele was the only person I know. And then it was Diego Maradona. I'm like, cool, I'll buy a bunch of his stuff really cheap. Let be known to me, like, his life was ended shortly. He was murdered.
Right.
And I had a whole bunch of cards before he died. It's kind of one of those things that I'm like, hey, this could be profitable. And we'll see, because like I said, they're still at PSA. So as soon as I get them, we'll see what they're, but I'm into them. Like, I mean, I might be into everything, maybe $500, and I might be into it 5, 10, 15,000. Who knows? Because a lot of what I have they're so old and unique, nobody else has them. So.
Yeah. So, and sometimes like two things to touch on that, like from a reselling standpoint, I've noticed that sometimes if you have something that's like so incredibly rare or like one of ones, those are really hard to sell because like it's hard to find comps for them. And that's what people like to go off pricing. So like you said, you might be into them for like, you may have a few $100s on your hand or a few thousand, maybe, six figures. Who knows what could happen with this stuff. It's interesting to see where the market goes on that. And then going back to your sealed wax and using your soccer analogy, like I don't mess around generally. We'll use your Pele, for example. Like, okay, if I have the Pele rookie and it goes to 0, would I personally be okay with that? Not really, because I'm not a soccer fan. But the difference is, if I knew the Pele card was in a product that was sealed and I had an option to buy that, absolutely I'd buy it. Like I'm such a believer in sealed product, like long-term, I don't care what it is. Like, in fact, go back and look at some of the 80s junk wax, like the real junk wax, like the Nintendo stuff or the, Harry and the Hendersons, Superman, like the stuff that Topps would put out. If you go back and look at some of those cards, unless you have them in really high grade, there's not a ton to chase after. Like it's all, there was no relics, there's no autographs. It's like stickers of characters in video games or a movie, whatever. But if you go try to find that stuff sealed, like the price generally is astronomical anymore. So I'm just you're talking about, going in on the AEW boxes. Any kind of sealed product, I think, is a no-brainer. The difference is, and my thought on that is, again, look at the 80s stuff. Like it's gone up in value over 30, 40 years. What people are doing is clearing Walmart, out of these things and thinking, oh, I can immediately flip this on eBay for 3 times the price. That's generally not the case. Like, could you flip it? The most common thing, like, could you flip that for 3 times the price in a year? Probably. But I think people are getting frustrated because they can't just 20x their money overnight on a lot of this stuff anymore. So I kind of went a little off topic, but you're talking about the single card versus the sealed wax and AEW and stuff. I want to just tie that together.
Nothing on this show is off topic, so we're good to everywhere. So here's my question. Like I said, you've been doing this for a while. How do you keep track financially of all of your investments? How do you keep track of your inventory? How do you file your taxes? Like, that's always a question because people are like, I get into it, now where do I go? So how are you doing that?
I think I actually decided to start taking the as far as like keeping track of sales, profit, and loss. Now, I'll be completely transparent. I wasn't even thinking about taxes at the time. I was thinking about how can I learn to do this better? Like, I don't care about if I even make money. I want to learn the process of what sells, what am I losing money on, what am I losing shipping on, just tracking the actual finances first. I started doing that in, like, I don't know, 2018, 2019 probably. And then all of a sudden I decided, I was like, okay, well, I should probably turn this in on my taxes, because it wasn't just, a couple $100.
Yes,
it was several thousands. So what I did is I didn't know how to do anything. I wrote down the amount of what I spent minus what I made and fees and everything, and came up with a number, took it to the tax guy, because I am absolutely not doing my own taxes. Forget that. I went and I was like, okay, here's what I got. And luckily it's the same tax guy that I go to now. He explained the whole process to me. He gave me a sheet that has different categories to fill out for different things. And since that day, I've been keeping the same spreadsheet, but now I have an additional sheet and it all makes sense to me. I count like every single penny down to, and then I was like, he's like, well, you using this as a business. All of a sudden I started finding things that I could start counting off as deductions within. So I was like, okay, so the more that I'm doing this, there's actually different benefits to claiming all of it, which is what a lot of people don't want to do. I'm sure, especially last year, I bet a lot of people were not very happy at the end when they decided they had to, file taxes on, $20, $30, $40,000 they weren't expecting to make off of a couple cards.
Hot tip, everybody will tip their waiter, they'll tip their mail person. When you tip your accountant, that goes a long way, because I can promise you, those people that do it to me, it helps, because our job is to exactly what you say. Let's lay everything out. Yeah, you might have sold, 3 or 4 Hogan cards for $15,000, but you're an all-in nerd and you went to all these AEW wrestling matches. I'm going to let you write those off because they are a work-related expense. Like when you start making money, other things become a relatable expense. And that's what I try to explain to everybody is, you know, if you made $300, but you want to write off your trip to go, like, that's just not going to jive. But if you put in $20,000 and you had a $2,300 show that you went to, that's a legitimate expense. And that's what you're seeing happening is, and I just saw it yesterday. I don't know if I sent it to you. There is a bill out right now. It's going to make you, if you make more than $600, and it's always been that way. It's people give it a hard time. Oh, what they're trying to make it worse. Or if I got a less than $20,000, I don't have to file. That's false. But there's a bill right now, whether it passes or not, we don't know. Any Venmo transactions, they are going to make you file your taxes on your Venmo transactions. And you will have to prove what's income and what's expenses. Because honestly, that's what a lot of people do. Like they don't want to file taxes, so they do it outside of transactions. But eventually, the government will find out every single thing you're doing. And it's your responsibility to say, I brought in $30,000, but my expenses were $27,000. So it's always on you. And the more that you understand that as a reseller, as a business, the better off you're going to be. So kudos to your accountant.
Yeah. And I think it also like helps me that I was more interested in learning the process of, you know, figuring out the numbers. And then after the fact, I was like, oh, I was supposed to be doing, like, people are supposed to be doing this anyway. Okay, great. I'm on the right track, you know?
Yeah. Do you sell just on eBay, or where are some other places do you do the like meet up on Facebook marketplaces or Craigslist or anything like that?
I'm not against any of that. I just don't generally have the time to go out and track down, you know, shady people in a Walmart parking lot to try to pick up a lot, or Craigslist, stuff like that. eBay is my primary source because I've decided that that's where the eyeballs are. Like, it's one of the biggest platforms, mainly for cards, but then I start, you know, trying to sell other things. And I've used Mercari a lot, and it seemed like when Mercari first started, I was doing really well with certain things on there. And then as time's gone on, it's become very interesting. Like, people want to lowball you. People are really strange on there, and a lot of things just aren't selling. So I'm kind of in the process of moving a lot of stuff from Mercari to eBay. And then you're talking about Venmo earlier. I have done like several transactions of collections, either in person from just word of mouth that I knew, like, you know, relatives of relatives or friends of friends of coworkers. Hey, I've got this collection. I don't want it. I don't, just give me something. Don't give me anything. Just take it off my hands. So I've done a few cash or Venmo transactions that, or PayPal that way. But most of the thing is eBay.
All right. Do you have any home run items? We like to talk about people. We all know the bread and butter is just, you know, you make a couple sales here, 20, 30, 40, you know, dollars here, there every day. Do you have any like big home run items? That's what people love to hear when we come on here. I had a MacGyver jacket I found at a thrift store that went for like a few $100s and just weird stuff like that. Do you have any like big, just can't believe that's what went for items that you just brag a little bit about?
I think for me, and I said this on a recent podcast I was also appearing on, the Sports Card Therapist podcast. He asked me a similar question. And I think for me, it's not that huge home run. It's like a bunch of triples. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I do a lot because I'm risk averse as far as like what I'm into something on from a dollar amount, but I'm not afraid to take a chance. I know it's kind of counterintuitive, but I do a lot of like $10 to 100, you know, 50 to 200 kind of deals. And I just do such a high volume of stuff that levels up. So like, you know, I might sell $51 cards, turn that $50 or, well, you know, after fees and stuff, it ends up being like 30 or 40, turning that into a single card I really believe in, leveling that up, you know, flipping that for, you know, 200% and just keeping that going. Like, I think that's really the key to the eventual home run is just the compound volume and compound value of whatever you're going for. I think a lot of people, and I can't judge here because different people have different scenarios, but a lot of people just get into reselling because they want to get out of debt or pay bills or stuff like that, which is first and foremost the best thing you should do, in my opinion. But after that, they're like, oh, well, I need to go out for the vacation, or I need to do this. And I'm completely the opposite. Like, I've gotten to where I absolutely hate spending money on anything that's not considered an asset in some form. So I just keep like compiling all of the money that I've made, whether it's 50 cents or, $50, just compiling that all back into collectibles. And if I don't see anything that I really believe in at the time, I've learned that it's just really handy to have that sitting in cash on the sidelines. I say that it's not as good as like having it in a big collectible, but if you really don't believe in anything at the time, then I think it does better to sit there, because I've had 3 instances in the past 2 months where I had people come up to me and they're like, hey, I want to get rid of these collections. Either I need the money, I don't want them sitting around, like I said earlier. And I had the cash on hand from not buying other things. I was just in sell mode. The cash was there, and now I'm sitting on even more inventory to make even more money on. It's one of those, diamond hands, paper hands thing. You hear people talk about that. And yeah. I'm always long-term for everything. So
I can't help but notice you can see your hands. It looks like you have a significant other, a spouse. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you talk about this with your spouse? Because let's be honest, you got some cards and things, and how does that conversation continue? Because we're all kind of in that situation.
Are you guys familiar with American Girl dolls?
Yes.
My wife is really into that, and I actually used this explanation. Like, I saw what she was buying, and I was like, wait a minute, explain this to me. And I was like, okay, there's a market for this. Like, there is wrestling cards, or wrestling figures, Hot Wheels. I came from the figure world, so I understand it. And then I used that, and I explained, okay, here's how you can get bigger and better dolls. And then I explained the process of flipping and buying things at thrift stores. We've actually done that a few times. And then I took that aspect, and I'm like, okay, what I just explained to you is what I'm doing in these other realms times 10. And she's like, oh, I get it now. So I'm not even, I've shown the dollar amount that I'm making, and the fact that, like, I do collect. There's things in my collection I don't ever want to get rid of, but I'm also, as I said earlier, and she knows this, that if it came down to it and I've got to part with this stuff, I'm not gonna even hesitate.
Smart man. That's
it also helps too. If, like, I'm completely out of debt, my house is paid for, and all of that stuff was taken care of way in advance before I even thought about collecting anything huge like that. Does that make sense?
It definitely does. Smart man. If you have not made a video about that one, make that video. Because like I said, getting your spouse involved in some aspect, because there's always going to be issues, there's always going to be things, but if you can explain it and get them on the same page, like, hey, honey, I know this, might not make sense, but I'm going to spend $700 on an eBay auction for a piece of cardboard.
Right. Yeah. And actually it's kind of worked in an interesting way too, that I actually, in the process of this, have bought her and graded a few cards. So we've got a Lady Gaga rookie card. She loves Lady Gaga. We've got the Lady Gaga inauguration when she sang at President Biden's deal. And then we've got some Bianca Belair stuff. And so we're just picking up some, I think, we bought it last time we went to the LCS, there was an Annie Oakley card that was like a quarter, and she picked that up. And she's like, oh, this is really cool. I'm like, let's add it to the collection. If it's something you like and it's cheap and you understand how this works now, like, it's kind of a fun thing. We can do it together, but we're not like so into it that it's taken over our lives.
That's awesome. So we're going to take a few more minutes here. Have you gotten into tickets yet?
I haven't. I understand the aspect of it, and I think it's awesome. But you guys can speak for this too, probably. Like, sometimes there's these things that come around, and you see them and you understand them, but for some reason you're just not into it yet. I don't know. If I had them, I think they'd be cool collectibles. I've looked at buying a few, and when I look at them, I'm like, okay, here's this ticket. It's X amount of dollars. I can take that same amount of money and go buy, a collection of 9,000 cards or whatever, and eventually flip that into, like, sometimes those tickets, I wonder, like, if it's a fad. We've seen video games and VHS and like all different kinds of media you can grade, and action figures. The grading thing's interesting, but I don't know. like I love all that stuff, but there's a lot of it that I just haven't jumped into yet. And it's not because I only do cards, because I will literally buy anything that I think I can resell. But and I'm not risk averse either, and I understand it. Like I love NFTs. Like a lot of people don't understand digital collectibles, and I think I have 3 or 4 NFTs right now, but I bought them because I understood what was behind them, and I thought they were cool collectibles, not just like, hey, I'm going to make a buck like that. That's why we're doing this. That's why we resell, right? But I've also learned that if you don't, one of two things, if you don't fully understand it, or if you're into it for more than it's worth, if it goes to 0, then you're kind of doing it wrong. And I found that if I've ever tried to do one of those two things, it never works out well for me. So that's why I just haven't gone into tickets yet. I get it. I understand it. I think they're cool, but personally haven't tried that yet.
There's only so many hours in a day. So
Well, that's the thing. I thought I was going to be smart. For whatever reason, the wrestling card world is still the bottom of the barrel. Wrestling fans are very avid and they'll buy anything, but wrestling cards haven't came around yet. Wrestling tickets are through the roof. Like I thought, I'll go get, WrestleMania 3, and I'll go get the Montreal Screwjob, and I'll go get all these iconic cards, maybe the first Rock title and stuff, or not cards, but tickets.
Yeah.
I go and they're already bought up and graded. And I thought, well, okay, I missed the boat kind of on that one. I could probably still buy into it and make some profit. But like you're saying, there's not a lot of meat left, or I could use that money elsewhere and make more of a profit. So,
you were talking earlier about going the opposite direction as everybody else. And I don't purposely do that, but that's kind of, as I look back in life, like that's kind of what I've done. And it's always generally worked out for me. And everybody's doing NFTs right now, and there's so much crap out there. And it's just like all the sneaker flippers and the people who would like rip, grade, send it PSA, make their, 300% profit and repeat. Most of them are in NFTs right now doing that. And like, I just see the bottom crashing out of that so hard on a lot of it. Gary Vee has said it, 98% of them are going to fail. And so I dabble and I like them, but it's just like, it's what you said, like there's not enough meat left on the bone on a lot of these because they're so expensive. So why not go do something else? And that's kind of where I'm at on a lot of stuff right now, especially wrestling cards. Like they've gotten a lot more popular in general. Like the price, we're never going back to the floor that we were at even a year ago or the year before that. But it's something I know. I'm comfortable with the risk involved, and it's just fun. Like I've had more fun with wrestling cards as with it just within the little world of wrestling cards themselves than I have any other form of collectibles.
Totally get that. So if people don't, like, they're going to try and find you. Tell us your other podcasts, what your eBay store is, so that our listeners can get out there and kind of follow a little bit more what you're doing.
The easiest thing you can do is go to my YouTube channel, which is Wrestling with Cards on YouTube. You should be able to just search that and find it. In every single one of the videos, I have in the show notes links to everything I'm doing. So that the eBay store will be in there. Macari's in there if you want to. And, that's another thing is like, I'm really willing to deal with people if they contact me off of line, like on social media, and say, hey, I found these 5 items on your eBay store. And it's like, you're at a card show or an auction at that point. And like, I will gladly get rid of stuff at a discount for loyal buyers to just keep it moving. I mean, I don't know how you guys work, but I like to keep it moving. Like, I don't like to be sitting. I like a lot of inventory, but I don't like to be sitting on it. Like if I have less than 20 sales a day or something like that, even if it's very low dollar amount, it's the sales amount of transactions. And I'm like, oh, I'm wasting my time.
Well, sounds like Derek needs to get a hold of you.
I've been there. I've been a customer, I think, before.
Yeah.
I was going to bring up the storage auction. I just got my package the other day
from Tony.
Tell Adam about that auction and how that worked. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, you guys might have to have Tony on sometime to tell you a little bit more of that, but I can give you the cliff notes. Basically, he has a storage unit because he works with pro wrestlers and actors and people that you've seen on, major motion pictures and TV networks. He goes to these conventions. He helps facilitate the signings and the meet and greets and stuff like that. So over time, he's accumulated just all of this stuff that people have given him, and it's sitting in the storage unit. And his goal is, and this is really good that we're talking about on your show. His goal is, I want to open a professional wrestling themed store. I know the business. I know what sells. I just need the initial, upfront cost to get turnkey. And I was like, you know what you should do is you should sell a lot of the stuff in your building. And he's like, well, yeah, I don't have a problem with that because I have no emotional attachment to anything. But it's like he gets overwhelmed. And, you know, we talked about this earlier, and I'm sure you guys run into people that, you know, if they have more than 10 eBay listings at once, they're like, I don't know what to do. I can't keep track of anything. But I was like, I'll help you. We'll do it live on Instagram to the best of our ability. I'll monitor the comments and the auctions. We're going to get that money raised. And by the end of the night, after we took out shipping fees and what everybody, I was like, Tony, you made, I don't even remember what it was at the time, but I was like, you made X amount. And he's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, yeah, you made that in one night from us just doing some promotion and putting in the work for a few hours to get rid of this. You know, we need to do this more often. You're going to open that store and it's going to be great.
Yeah, I know. I was there. I was telling a few of my buddies, hey, get over there. You need to check this out. It was a really cool idea.
Yeah, we're going to do more too. We're going to keep doing them until that shed is just completely empty. But it's hard to do with our schedules, and he's still, you know, with the COVID stuff kind of easing up a little bit. He's going to more of these conventions now, and his schedule's ticked up. But we're going to keep doing them maybe once a month or so.
So it sounds like Derek and I might have to make a trip to Southwest Missouri, because that used to be my stomping ground. I was in that area for 2 years, so.
Oh, that's cool.
Green Forest has got a killer thrift shop just maybe an hour south of you. Eureka Springs has got some really good stuff. I spent a lot of time there. My go-to is in Monette, Missouri. I spent some on an ecclesiastical 2-year vacation, so I'm very familiar with the area. So are you in Branson or kind of outside Branson?
No, but that's like my favorite place in the world to go. Like I'm not very far from it, but I feel like such a tourist every time. And I'm like, yeah, this stuff's so like ridiculous and gimmicked, and I absolutely love it. But that's where I've also found some amazing things at garage sales, and their flea markets are awesome. They have a local card shop on the landing down there that you can they have really good prices, small selection, but really good prices. I think Branson is my hotbed. And if you hop over the lake, you run into Hollister. We bought some American Girls doll stuff at some of the flea markets there and did okay. But I just love that area. And then Springfield's got some, you know, spots here and there, but it seems like Branson is my hotbed. Like I just keep finding junk stashed away in little places there.
Love it. Sounds like Derek. Maybe we'll go out there and clean out the storage unit.
Yeah, I was just out. I wasn't in that part of Missouri. I just went Kansas City, St. Louis, did a little loop. So but there's a lot of stuff out there in the Midwest. I think that gets overlooked as far as everyone thinks big cities, big pictures. You can live fairly cheap. That's why I keep saying where we're at.
Oh yeah.
Too. But living expenses and things are kind of lower. And there's just a lot of stuff out there. I don't know why, but it seems like some of these places people just hoard, get things, and then I don't know. I guess it's wherever you're at, but you can find the little thrift stores and things, and there's a lot of profit to be made, and I think it gets overlooked a lot with resellers.
Absolutely. One thing I've noticed, you say that in this area, it seems like I try not to be too judgmental about this, and it could be like a society issue, but there's so many people I know that they hoard things, like you said, and then they're just extremely lazy. And, you know, you'll drive by and see piles of car parts just stacked up in people's front yards and stuff like that. And like, despite, I'm sure you guys can see behind me, I have a lot of stuff. Like most of the stuff is just extra inventory or just cool stuff sitting around. But generally I'm a minimalist. Like I don't like a lot of stuff. So I have that, again, going back to the eBay thing when we started the show, like I have this work ethic of, I'm overwhelmed by this stuff around me. I need to sell it and get rid of it. And people around here just don't operate like that. They're very, very slow operating. They're very, you know, easy going, very, very nice people. But at the same time, like that's probably why they're living a lot longer than probably I will, because I'm just like, go, flip, buy, sell, you know, and, but they, you know, most people just kind of like to take it easy around here, and they put stuff in their barns or their sheds or garages, and then they decide to have a garage sale one day, and you know, the next thing you know, you can find some treasure.
There you go. Lots of treasure, especially in the Missouri area. One probably off the wall kind of questions here. Can you explain to me what the word "yuns" is? That's a word out there. Union boys ain't from around these parts. Do you get that in your part of Missouri, or is that just an Arkansas thing?
Oh no, we get that. We get all that slang, and I understand it. But most people I talk to don't believe I live here because I don't have that same thick country accent like everyone else does. And I was born and raised in this area, so I don't know what the deal is. I've never picked up on the vernacular of that, but I do understand it. So to sum it up this way, we're not in Louisiana, but if you guys have seen the water boy and the coach with the overalls, that's kind of how everyone talks here. And I'm like, if you're here, you know, but if you're not from here, you kind of have to have a translator be like, what did you say? So yeah, I don't yunses and yuns guys and y'all and all that fun stuff.
Best thing I heard is they said yuns equals y'all plus 3. So I was like, all right, sure, that makes sense to me. So
pretty accurate.
Love where you're at. It's a great area. So D-Roy, you got anything to wrap up?
No,
with?
man, I just tilted my head a little bit on that one, but appreciate you. I know you're a busy man. We don't want to take up too much of your time. Appreciate you carving out some time coming in here. To our listeners, if you're not familiar, go check out the YouTube page. And I mean, you can learn a lot, even if that's not what you're after. So go ahead and subscribe. Adam's showing me you have 500 almost.
50, yeah.
Yeah, I actually, once I hit which in the YouTube world, that's nothing. But when I first started this, and I'm tying this together with Gary V because we were talking about him, like when he said just press record, and that's what you guys are doing. When I started that, I was like, oh, I'll be happy if like 5 people care, and here we are, 500 and some later, and that's not even counting. Like I found out a lot of people listen to the podcast that don't necessarily watch the YouTube channel, and vice versa. So you're getting different people. And I sent Gary an email and I put out a tweet and all this stuff. I hit the 555 subscribers and I'm like, okay, I got to at least try it. Of course he didn't answer, but
for some reason he follows me on Twitter. That was another funny thing. Adam's a big fan. I'm not the big Gary Vee guy, but he was looking for wrestling cards because it was kind of that big push. And Adam, check out my buddy Derek's stuff. And I don't remember what card or whatever he linked me to. And next thing I know, Gary's following me on Twitter.
That's cool.
It was just like, what happened there? How'd that happen? I hold it over his head right now, but I figured he would just unfollow me, but he's still there.
That's awesome.
One thing, like I said, just trying stuff. I saw you do a couple videos on TikTok. One of my other spinning plates, I own a business where we make and manufacture off-road wheelchairs.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay.
A unique thing. We threw it up on TikTok. We just hit we're almost 51 million views on TikTok, pushing our buddy in a wheelchair. So you never know where you're going to hit. And like I said, we appreciate every single person that listens to our podcast, watches a video. It all helps. And whether it's 1 or 1 million, every single person is important. We appreciate it. And like I said, you're sharing some awesome knowledge with us.
Yeah. And to our listeners, go give him a follow. Go check it out. Subscribe if it's your thing. But a lot of content over there, and I appreciate it. Your videos, they're entertaining. They give me something to go look at. I bought a lot of cards just from things that you've shown or done. But also, there's information there that I think can be used in all reselling platforms. It's not just wrestling cards, even though that's the focus. So thanks for coming on. I appreciate the time. And if you got anything else you want to plug or anything else you want to say, floor is yours, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm always flattered when people ask me to come on their platform, whether it's like you said, 1 or 1 million, it doesn't matter. Like I'm just happy to talk about stuff that I'm passionate about, whether that's reselling, wrestling cards, music, hobby related stuff. Like if it's something I'm passionate about, I love to talk about it. So check out the YouTube channel. That's the main platform. And then, like I said, if you check the show notes for every single video or within the channel itself, you can find my links to my social platforms, the other podcasts I'm involved with. And if you guys need help for like my DMs are open on all platforms. So if you need reselling advice or questions on a card, if there's something I haven't answered in one of the videos, happy to help however I can. And, that's just the whole reason that I started if you'd asked me 2 years ago, if I'd be sitting here doing this right now, I would have told you you're crazy. Like I wasn't a big social media guy. I was like, why would I want to start a YouTube channel or a podcast? I'd actually started podcasts in the past and they just flopped and I didn't have the patience. But here I am, a couple of years later after starting this, thanks to Gary Vee and everybody that's continued to support all my content. And I'm just having a blast. So thanks you guys for having me on. And thanks for doing what you do. You said it, you guys said it, you took the chance and just hit the record button. And here we are.
The best part is, like I said, Derek's got knowledge, but every single person listening to this, whether they do or don't, have to file their taxes. And that's what you always hear is, well, what should I do? Well, there's a couple things you should be doing. And it's not just, well, talk to your tax guy. I am the tax guy. that's what I say is I tell people kind of what to do. Find a great account. That's the best avenue that you can do. You found one that's great to you. So
Yep.
Derek.
Well, I mean, you've listened to 10 shows now, so I guess you know how this ends.
Yep.
We've got 2 things in life that are for certain, Zahn. You know what those 2 things are?
Hulkamania and The Rock. Oh no, sorry. Death and taxes.
There we go.
We're well within our rights to use this song. We're aware that preaching copyright is wrong. With lots of dedication, we've researched the legislation, and this music has nowhere else it belongs. Derek is the king of Deathpiles, and Adam does his taxes all the while. Deathpiles and taxes, selling stuff online in between. Deathpiles and taxes, no copyright infringement to be seen. Derek is the king of Deathpiles, and Adam does his taxes all the while. Deathpiles and taxes, selling stuff online in between. Deathpiles and taxes, no copyright infringement.